Parsnips are a wonderful crop to grow throughout the winter here in Texas. In fact, the cold weather imparts the parsnip root with an even sweeter flavor. So parsnips can be planted in the fall, that is late September or October before the first frost, and then they can be harvested by early March so that the bed is available again to grow your spring vegetables. Now parsnips prefer full sun and soil that is rock-free and loosened to a depth of 18 inches and contains some humus matter. When you're choosing parsnip seeds, be sure to choose seeds that are no older than a year old because they lose their viability very quickly. Parsnip seeds also take 3 to 4 weeks to germinate or sprout. And so to decrease this time, you can pre-soak the seeds in a jar of water the night before you plan to plant them, and this will speed up the germination. So when you get ready to plant your seeds the next morning, you can plant them pretty thickly in the beginning, and then as the seeds come up, you can thin them to between 6 and 8 inches apart. You can leave 18 inches between the rows. As you see, I have two long narrow beds here with 2-foot walkways between them. So to take advantage of my space, since I can get to the parsnips on all sides, I chose to plant them all 6 to 8 inches apart. Now parsnips take, depending on the variety, 110 days to 150 days to fully mature. And usually the vegetation on top will be between 12 and 15 inches tall at this time. And just if you want to make sure if they're ready too, you can kind of do a little check by take your finger and scrape a little dirt off around the very top of the parsnip root. This will not disturb the root, but will let you see the width of the very top of the root. If the top of the root is 1.5 inches to 2 inches wide, it's large enough to go ahead and harvest. Now, of course, you can always eat parsnip roots that are smaller because they have a lot of flavor and they're very tender. The most important thing on parsnips is to not let the roots get too large. As they get too large, they become woody and hard and inedible. There's something else I want to tell you about parsnips. Parsnips leaves and the stems contain a chemical that when crushed on the skin can interact with the sunlight and cause a condition called Phyto Dermatitis. Basically, these are red spots that look like sunburns that can develop blisters. And so some people who are very sensitive, this might be a concern for them. But it's really a big concern for those who harvest wild parsnips compared to the garden parsnips. But just to be on the safe side, I just go ahead and wear my gloves anyway. Now when you get ready to harvest your parsnips, you can either leave the stem on the parsnips or you can cut it off about 4 inches tall. That way you don't have to shake them around in your face as much when you're pulling them up. And then place your shovel straight up and down about 4 inches from the root, the wall of the parsnip, and then sink it into the ground and then lift the parsnip out and shake the dirt off. And then wash your parsnips with a water hose outside to get all the dirt off. Just wash the roots with a water hose. Here you see mine after I've washed them off. Now I want to cut the stem even with the top of the parsnip root. So don't cut the root, but just cut that stem off. And now you're ready to store in your refrigerator. You can store them in the refrigerator crisper in a plastic bag and they'll last several weeks. Of course, you can store them in root cellar conditions for up to 6 months. Now, if you happen to wait too long for your parsnips to harvest your parsnips and they start growing this central stalk out the very middle, that's kind of a warning sign that they're about to go to seed. And when they do this, they are no longer edible. So you want to harvest them before they develop the central stalk that comes out. So a central stalk shoots out the center, and then the stalk develops a beautiful flower on top, and that flower is going to make seeds. Now what I usually do is I let one of the plants live after I've harvested the crop, and so I can get seeds for next year. And the flowers are very beautiful. They attract several species of butterflies and they attract honeybees. So I let this one plant develop these beautiful yellow flowers, and then the flowers will develop into seed pods that are light green, and then a few weeks later the seed pods will turn medium to dark brown, and some of the pods will begin opening. That lets you know that the seeds are ready to harvest. So when they have turned dark brown, you can see some of them are dark brown in this picture. So these are ready to harvest, while the light green ones are not yet. So then you take scissors, you clip out those seed heads, and you put them in a paper bag, and then you gently shake the seeds in the bag, and then the seeds will fall out in the bag, and then you can separate them and put the seeds in a paper envelope and then store them in a cool, dark, dry place for your garden next year or next fall. So, and there's so many wonderful recipes you can use your parsnip in. Some of my favorite are parsnip soup, especially those with curry and leeks, and parsnip fries, and of course parsnip and other roasted vegetables. Also on the blog I've included a link to some parsnip recipes on Epicurious. So enjoy your parsnips, happy gardening, and thank you so much for watching.